Hello, hello everyone. So I think we are back, and let me just start the next session, the next module, right? And before moving on to that, let me just read some of the questions. Okay, you want me to teach in the dark mode? Okay, I'll do that. Not worry. So if we are having more than one company, how it will impact? So I would say impact more than one company, you can segregate your data, right? According to different company, you want to have different data. But when you do the extensions are per database basis. So it will be applicable to all of your companies, right? Okay, so your company Abhijit is Hardcastle Petrofer Private Limited. It's in Mumbai. This is your email ID, and you try to understand Microsoft Business Central development environment. Okay, great. So kindly explain the extension dependency with example. So extension dependency is just like when you're creating two extensions, suppose, right? For your on-premise environment. And in that one, in one extension, you have a table and you want to use those table fields in a page in the different extension. That what you will do in the dependency, you will just put the app ID, right? So if I go here, if I get the time, I'll explain it to you more perfectly also, right? Right. So here you can see this is my cloud sandbox. Let me open my on-premise one. And here you can see that in the app.json, we have this option dependencies, right? So here what we need to do, we just need to provide the app ID, app name and all. So it's not coming right. So we just need to provide the app ID. Now, if this project, this D365, if it is dependent on some ID, some project, then you need to provide this ID, the name, publisher and version. These four things you need to provide. If I put it like this, yeah. So you need to provide it's something like this. Okay. So this ID is already the same ID. If I have some project that has some different ID, I just need to provide that particular extension's ID. Every extension has an ID. D365BC has this ID, right? I need to provide that ID, the name, the publisher, the version, and I can provide multiple ones. So I just have to press this comma and then have to provide other dependency. So with this, we can link our different projects together. Okay, if I'll get the time, I'll explain the full demo to you also. Now we have Courseware Google link. I'll ask Chintu to please provide the Drive link to everyone. Yes, we are sharing the link. Skip the base code and instead running our function. It's important. How can I skip base code function? So this I'm not kidding because see on a generic platform you are extending its functionality, right? So the base code will always run. Right? In report, if you want to skip something, then we have that skip function, the skip parameter. You can skip some of the records, but like in table and pages, if you are doing something, what we are doing, we are just extending the original one's capabilities, right? So they'll run. Swastik. Swastik. Okay. I do not know. I have also done that previous Business Central technical consultant course also. If many of your names are familiar to me, if you're the same, then you can write in the chat window that we are the same. Otherwise, different people are also there, then it's okay. Without tenant ID, who to connect to? Who to connect to? I think should be how. Without tenant ID, how to connect to the sandbox environment. Okay. So without tenant ID, see what happens. This was my cloud one. Right? So each environment will have some tenant ID, right? So how we are segregating it? We are segregating it with the name. environment name. Each environment name would be different, right? And it will have a tenant ID. Still, if you want to give it a tenant ID, then what you can do, you can press controls, oops, sorry, control space tenant, right? And then here you want to provide a tenant ID. So if you go here on your sandbox, this is not my sandbox, and this is my sandbox, right? So what we can do, sorry, in the help and support, at the bottom you will find your tenant ID. So this is your ID, tenant is your tenant ID. You can copy it from here, and you can also see that in the URL sometimes, right? And then paste it here so that you are sure that you are deploying for the particular tenant. So let's just see if it is working. If I go to helloworld.al and I'll change it. This is the tenant ID that you can see, right? It's a sandbox, page is this. Taking some time. Let's just wait for 1 or 2 minutes and then we'll move forward. Taking a lot of time. Let me just publish it again. Okay, so we're not wasting that this much of time. So what we can do, we can define the tenant ID in the app.json. If it will be loaded, I'll show it to you, right? And then in the launch.json, we can also get the tenant ID if we want. Otherwise, the name would segregate it itself, right? Now, other questions, little bit slower. Okay, if I'm going fast, I'll be a little bit slower. Other name also, I just showed you the other name. Okay, this is the same thing. Yeah, rat.json I already told you. Okay, so these were the questions. Any new questions? Who can use these IDs? So he has given you the development ranges. RSP object range. See, this till this we discussed, right? 50,000 to 999. After that, these are the IDs, right? This is for us for customization and for test purpose. A partner. The objects in this are designed with the Microsoft team, localized to the center of a specific country or region. So these are the ranges. And then registered solution providers. And for this ID range is for the extension of Business Central Online, right? For app source only. So these are the ranges. You can see it here. Can we write hard code for particular company in the database? Hard code like for which particular object you want to write hard code? Particular company in the database. Please elaborate it more. Okay. So what we will do, we are done with the first module, and in this we learned various things, right? What are the various things that we learned? We learned about Business Central on-premise. First of all, we learned about different ways to have the development environment for Business Central. One is the Business Central SaaS, software as a service, that's on cloud. We can use it by our trial account, right? Or if you have the tenant account, then you can use it by that, right? Second one is the Azure VM, Azure Virtual Machine. We can have a Business Central instance on Azure Virtual Machine and can run our development environment on that. Then we have the Docker container. In Docker container, we can have the Business Central instance and then we can run our Business Central instance over that, right? So the main thing that works in these two, we will always get the latest version of Business Central in Azure VM and Docker. The fourth one is the on-premise version of Business Central, where we particularly set up the particular platform of Business Central. Like in our case, we have installed the 2021 Wave 2. So for that, we get the image, right, for the setup file, and then we install the setup file. So we learned about that. Then we learned about VS Code, how VS Code looks like, what are the different options available in VS Code, right? And then what we can do, how we can create an AL project in VS Code. We have to install the AL language extension to start developing our projects for Business Central, right? And then we learned about different extensions and AL object designer that Business Central does not have, that Seaside development environment had. So now we do not have it, so we need to install an extension for that. So we installed the extension for that also, right? And then we created some project on-premise. We created a project, we published it. Then on cloud also, we created a project and published it. On cloud also, we can see that different options are available, like upload extension is also there. So when we build any project in Business Central, in VS Code for Business Central, and .app file is generated. So we can upload it directly onto a cloud version platform of Business Central, right? And then we learned about dependencies and all also. If I get the time, we'll surely show you the demo for that also, right? Now, what we will do, and we saw the Git feature also. It's really nice feature. If you know about Git, right? If you have and hang on for that Git, then it will be very handy to you when you do your development process on VS Code. So for that, multiple commands were there. You can push your code to the remote repository. You can pull the codes to your local repository, right? Different branches were there, master, and you can create your own also. You can even clone any repository if you want to. So you need to first integrate Git. First install the Git on your local machine and then integrate that with VS Code. It's that much easy. Just initialize the repository and then you will be good to go, right? So this is the things that we have learned. We learned about the JSON files, why they're important, and how we can customize them. Now there's a lab that we have already done that will create and run an AL extension. So we have already done. We have created an AL extension and we have also published the same. Now let's start with our module 2. Module 2 deals with tables. So table is an essential part of Business Central. Like without table, we cannot move forward. So in the question and answer round, I was in the question and answer panel. I found some of the questions like when we create a new table or when we add new fields. into an existing table, would that be added to the same table in SQL Server, or a new table would be created, right? So we will see that also when we'll do that, but a new table is created, right? So it's not the same table remain as it is, and a new table is created with new fields. Okay. So table, what is a table? Table is an object in Business Central that stores the data into rows and column format. So if suppose attendance sheet is there, you all people are there, and if I say roll number one, and then I'll say your name, and if you're present or not, I say roll number two, XYZ, I say present or not, like that. What I'm doing, I'm putting the data in rows and column format that are related to each other. So this P relates to this person's name. If this person was there, then I have put this P, right? If this person was not there, then I have put it. So table stores the data in rows and column format that are related to each other, right? And why do we use tables in Business Central? Because it deals with data. And whenever we are dealing with data, we need to store the data somewhere. And the easiest way to store the data in the rows and column format, right? Because it's easy to fetch it out. Now, what are the objectives of this module? This is the second module of our training session. We are just done with our first module. So in this, we have the following objectives. The first is what is a table. We will see what's a table, right? And then we will see what are the table types. What are the different types that are available in Business Central to us, right? Then we will see what are the properties. So what are the different properties available to us in Business Central for tables and how we can change them. Then we will see different data types. So whenever we are dealing with data, we are storing the data, we always want to know the type of the data that we are storing, right? So in this, we will see the data types. What are the different data types available in AL language for Business Central? Then we will see table relations. So what are the different table relations that are available to us, right? Then we will see keys. So keys are an important part of Business Central, not Business Central, important part of anywhere that we use data, right? Why keys are important? Because they uniquely identify rows. If we do not have anything that uniquely identifies rows, we cannot find an item easily. Right? It would be very ambiguous. Then we will learn about keys. What are keys in Business Central? Then we will see what are field groups, right? And how to create those field groups. And then we will see calculated fields, how we can do calculation on the fly on the Business Central UI. Okay, so these are the objectives for our module number 2, that is table. So this definition is telling you the same thing that I already told you. It's a collection of related data held in columns and rows format, right? In simple layman terms, we can say rows and columns that contains data that is related. So that is a table. Then we have different type of tables according to the functional use and according to the technical use. So we actually segregate or organize the data differently. Functionally, we just name them. It's not like that behind the bar or on the backhand, they are saved with that name. No, functionally, we are just giving them some name. But technically, yes, we have these type of tables that we can create in Business Central. Anytime you have any question, or if I am moving way too fast, way too slow, just type that in the Q&A panel, okay? Or any question you have. So technically, we have these 4 types of tables. So first one is the database table. Then we have the system tables. Then we have the virtual tables, and then we have the temporary tables. Now, what are these? Let's just see. So every table that we have in Business Central mostly are database tables. So the customer table, the item table, the product, the vendor table, right? Everything that we have, we consider that as database table. So the definition and data is also in the object designer, and these are the examples. So if I open the object designer, yes, so I think this I was showing you and it's already published. I think, but I changed the name. Okay, I'll show you this later on. Let's not confuse it up. So this is my VS Code, right? And you can see we have different tables available to us, right? And now if you see most of the tables, we consider them as database table. Their definition is also there in the object designer and we call them database tables, most of the tables, right? Now, then we have the system table. So system tables are those tables that are necessary for the solutions. It means tables that stores the metadata, data about data, right? Like company. If you are creating a company, its information should be stored somewhere, or the name, the role, everything, it should be saved somewhere, right? It is necessary for a solution to work. So, and its ID, it lies somewhere here. So if I show you that, right, what I did, I just put a filter and you can see that these IDs are starting from 2 billion, right? And in this, we create system tables, right? So the system tables, you can see the name is also written here, system, and these are the tables that are necessary for the solution. So our objects, if I click on this, you can see our objects are here table, table data, report, code unit. So these keywords are also saved somewhere, right? When we write them in the code here, they should refer from somewhere. So they are referring from this table. So this table, these system tables actually stores the data that is necessary for my solution to work, right? We have the permission sets. Then we have the company. If I open company, see name of the company. If it is an evaluation company, display name, ID, business profile IDs and all. Everything that is necessary for my solution to work, we save it in the system table. Like session, see what is the user ID, what is the connection ID, what my session, the login time, login date and all. Everything that I see that is necessary for my system to work, we save it in the system tables, right? Then we have the virtual tables. So now virtual tables, what are VTs? VTs that we create at runtime, right? We want to see data from different tables, right? We want to see data on the runtime. They are not in the object designer, and we do not have any rights over it. We cannot overwrite it. So suppose if I go here and if I open my Business Central on premise, let me just close everything else and let me open my Business Central on premise. So when I was showing you the settings and all, there was an option last login, right? So this comes from the VT. This information we are storing somewhere, right? It's only view only. We do not have rights over it. So this is done by the virtual tables, and their definition is also not in the object designer. And then we have the last type of tables. These are called temporary tables. So temporary tables are only in memory client, in memory of the client only, right? And their image of the database table. So suppose they are temporary, they are not saved in the database. So they do not occupy any space, right? They are just in the memory of the client, right? And why do we use temporary table? To store the buffer data, right? Suppose there is a requirement that you want to store a buffer data and do not want to occupy a database space for that. So what you can do, we can create a temporary table. So when we'll deal with module number 8, queries, right? In that, we will need these temporary tables. So what we will do, we will create a query, right? In this, we will fetch data from multiple tables, right? And then we want to show that those multiple fields, right? I have those multiple fields, right? I want to show this to a page so that it is visible to me on the Business Central UI. Now, page only showcases the data of a single table. We will learn that also. So how can we show that queries data to page? So in between we will need a temporary table for that. So this is one of the use case of temporary table where we will need that. Okay. So according to technical type, we have these 4 type of tables that we will need to create a solution of Business Central for us. Now, functionality wise, we have these 9 types of tables. So we have master table, supplemental, setup, register, subsidiary, ledger, journal, document table, document history. And as I believe you have already taken the functional training, so you would know that master table stores the master data, right? Subsidiary stores the subsequent subsidiary information or extra information about the master data, like customers, location, and all. Master customer would be the master table, and its location, language, currency would be the subsequent subsidiary information. So it will be saved here, supplementary data and all, right? And then we have the setup tables. So setup tables only have one line of data because we are setting it only once. So the general ledger setup or the other user setup tables. And in for transaction, we use the journal tables and the document tables like sales order and all. And then we post it and they become the historical data like document history or ledger table or the register table, right? So functionality wise, we just organize the data into these names. They are not present anywhere technically. Like if you want to create a table of document table type, no, they are not available. We are just giving them some name according to the functionality that they have, right? So this is the description. So you have already taken the functional training, so I'm skipping this. Now, this is the main part, how we create a table in VS Code. So for that, first you can see this flow diagram. What we have to do, first we need to write table, the keyword, the ID that we want, that CSPs has given us to create our solution, and then the name of the table. So this is the first thing that we have to write. Then we have to enclose it in starting and closing braces. And those starting and closing braces are the curly braces that we have. So what we have done, we have essentially created a body, right? You can see it like that. So it's a hierarchy. So table is at the outermost hierarchy. Then we write the table properties. Now, what are table properties? That classifies how my table should behave. The characteristics of my table, right? We also, as human beings, have some properties that I talk too much, right? I sleep too much, like that. So a table, an object also has some properties. So we write properties at the very top. As soon as the starting braces start, we write the properties here. So these are called table properties, which define the characteristics of my table. Then we have triggers. Triggers we write at the bottom. Triggers, procedures, and global varies. We write at the bottom, right? Just as the closing braces is closing. Then we have fields. So fields we write here, right? After the table properties, right? And fields also has some properties and triggers. So they also have some properties and some triggers, right? And then we write keys. So we write it like this. So let me just show you one diagram for the same. So I have created this box diagram so that it's easy to understand the hierarchy. So you can see that we write table like this. There is a code snippet in VS Code to write every of the code objects. So we just have to put T in front of the name of the object to have that snippet. Okay. So for table, the code snippet is T table. And this is how we write it. So the outermost is table. Inside that we write table properties. Then we write fields. Fields also has some field properties and triggers, right? So that we can handle fields individually also. Then we write the keys here. Then we write field groups here. Now, what are field groups? We'll discuss them in a while. Then we write table variables, triggers, and procedure at the very bottom. So this you will find common in all of the objects, right? The triggers, the procedures, variables, they're always written at the bottom, and the properties are always written at the top. In between, the things changes for different objects, right? So this is how we write a table code in VS Code. Now, these are the table properties that we will discuss some of them. Firstly, let me go to VS Code to show you how to create a table. Okay, so this is my VS Code and let me just close it and open it again. So now we have only doing dealing with the Business Central on premise. Okay, so let me open another folder. Right, so now we are into our D365 BC. This was for the on-premise solution. And then we have the ID ranges, everything we have in the app.json. And then we have the .app file also that we can upload as an extension, right? And then we have this first code that we have written. So what I will do, I will just remove this, okay? And what I'll do, so until and unless I publish this extension again, my hello world, the dialog box that was coming here would still be coming, right? Why it's coming? Because I have not published the current things. Right? Currently I do not have it, but previously I had it. So that's why it's coming. Until and unless I publish the new things, it would still be there. So now what I'll do, I'll create a new file. Okay, someone wanted me to teach in the dark mode, so I'll change the mode. I'll go to view. Where was it? Right. So let's just have this. If any one of you facing any problem, or if any visually impaired person is there, they're just listening. Uh, so if you have any problem, let's just ask me. I'll just change the vision of this. Okay, visual of this for maybe something that is compatible to you. Okay. Now this is dark mode and this is a project. So if I want to create any new file in the project, I have two ways. I click on this dark part here and I'll right click on it and then I can create a new file or a folder. Depends upon me, right? Or either I can go to this. After the name of my project, I have these options. Create a new file, create a new folder, create, refresh the explorer, or what is this? Collapse, right? So what I'll do, I'll click right click on it, I'll click on new file, and then I'll give it a name, demo table. So I use Pascal case in this. Pascal means whenever I'm starting a new word, that new word's first character is always capital. It's called camel case also. So I use it. That's a best practice also. And you can also use it. And if I do not put .al extension into it, my Visual Code would not understand that this is an AL file, and then it won't allow me to use that code snippets or the IntelliSense feature that AL extension provides us. So for that, I need to provide that AL language extension to it and press enter. So as you can see that it's a file. So I have created a file and now it's there. Now either what I can do, I can create it from the scratch. I can write table. 1 minute. Yeah, I can write table, I can give it an ID, and then I can create my whole project from scratch, or I can use some intelligence. So in intelligence, I know that Visual Studio Code provides me an intelligence feature, code snippet. With code snippet, what I can do, I can have the framework of the object that I'm creating. So what I had to do to invoke the code snippet, I just need to write T in front of the name of the object. So my name of the object is table, so I'll write T table. If my name of the object is page, I'll write T page, right? Just put a T in front of that object. So I'll put T table, and yes, you can see the T table, it's a snippet, right? So I'll say, okay, yes. And here you can see, I do not have to write everything on my own. Everything is available to me as a framework, as a placeholder. You know what is a placeholder? Where we just need to remove the placeholder and we can put our own information into it. Okay. So now this is my table. This is the same thing that I showed you how to create a table. We first write the name, then the ID, and then the name. So I'll give it an ID. Which ID I will give it? That my CSP has provided me. So in this, I have access to these IDs 501002 to 50149. So I'll select these IDs. Okay. So I'll go and put 50100. Okay. And name of my table is, I can give any name because this is a new table that I'm creating. I'm not extending an already presented one. This is my object that I'm creating. So I'll say table, uh, shopping table. I like shopping, so I'll give it a name, shopping table. Now, when you give your table or your object a name that has special characters or a space in between the name, so you either you remove that and make it a single keyword, right? Or if you want that space to be in there, so you need to enclose them in double quotes. Okay, this is one of the tips or one of the learnings that we have to see. Then we'll move ahead further. So you can see that when you move to the left hand side, you can see some arrows. So these arrows actually collapses the data according to the hierarchy. So I was telling you that table is the topmost hierarchy, right? So when I collapsed it, everything went away because everything is inside this table. So let me just expand it and let's move to the second hierarchy. So if I collapse it, you can see only fields is closed, right? Keys is still there. It means fields and keys are at the same level. They are siblings. If I collapse keys, you can see fields and keys, they are siblings, right? And now if I collapse this, you can see where, yeah. So they come at the very end, right? So this fields, keys, where they all are siblings, right? And their parent is the table, the topmost one, right? Now what we can do, let me just expand all of these. The first I told you every property that my object has comes at the very top. So people ask me, can we put the properties at the bottom? So no, we cannot. When you put that C at the bottom, if you at the top, if you are at the property, I press enter and I press control space. What happens? It tells me all the properties that this table has, right? So till this marks, till this spanner, you will find the properties. Otherwise, they are all the snippets. So these are the properties of my table. But if you go down, right, and then try to press control space, you will not find those properties. So it means Microsoft has created a place for each of the things that is there in a object. So properties occupies the topmost space, triggers procedure where occupies the endmost space. Okay. So now this one is the data classification property. Data classification property is actually nothing. It's there just to classify data. It's for the compliance issues, right? If I remove this and press control space, so you can see that what type of data do we have. So we have account data, we have customer content data, we have end user identifiable information. So it is up to you. Maybe you're working on the data and then after brainstorming you came to know that we are creating a shopping table, and this shopping table, it's a customer content, right? It should be identified as a customer content. So what we can do, we can give it a tag as customer content. It's just for our identification for the compliance issues, like how do you want to classify the data. The other compliance issue, the GDPR and all, they follows, but this is for us, like how do we want to customer or classify the data, right? Then we have the control. We do not know anything about the properties. So what we will do, we will invoke the IntelliSense feature of VS Code, right? How to invoke that? We will press control space. So in this, you can see there are various multiple properties available for a table. And what are properties? They specify the characteristics of a table, right? So let me just see what are the available properties. So they were saying name, caption ML, data caption fields, data per company, lookup page ID, drill down page ID, and the table type. So these are the some properties that we will discuss. Other properties are also there that you can already see. When I pressed control space, many of the properties popped out. So name, caption, ML, data, caption fields. Let's just discuss them first. So this name, this is also a table property they are saying, right? And if I go press control space, you can see caption. Now, what is this caption? Caption means how do I want my table to be identified on the UI, right? Now you will say that on UI we cannot see table. But when I was pressing view table, I was able to see table on UI, right? From the inspect pages. So if you want to put any caption to your table, you can give it here. So this also comes handy if you want to give your table a short name, right? If you want to give your table show table or shop table, but caption wise you want to elaborate it more, so you can give it. And captions, they are text or string fields, so they always comes in single quotes. So if I without it, I'll write shopping table like that. So you think you can see that's a squiggly line, and the bottom you can see the error, right? It's a string literal, and it expects something. So let's just give it an expectation, okay? So that error is gone. But that string, it's a string literal, and it's expecting something. So what it is expecting these single quotes, right? Now the error is gone. So this is how we can give the caption. Now we have the caption ML property, right? Suppose what is caption ML property? ML stands for multi-language. So if you want to create multi-language, like if you're using localized version of Business Central, suppose in France, you are using Business Central and you are using that in India also or US also. So there would be different terms for different things, right? So suppose you are using, what should I say? Uh, okay. So suppose there is an option written, right? And you want to say shopping table for me, right? And the same you want to write in France. So what you will do, you will provide the caption MS. So for that, you need to provide the code, the language code, and then you need to provide the name. So you can write Je suis. I'm not writing this, I'm writing something that I know in French. So that is Je Dore chocolat. Okay, J'adore chocolat. I've written I love chocolate, and this is the only thing that I know. Not only thing, but I know some of the friends. So this is I know. Okay, and this we can write like this. Now you would say that there is a problem, right? Why this error is coming? So this error is coming because we cannot use caption and caption ML together. Okay. So either we can use caption or we can use caption ML. Why? Because that would be redundant. So here I can write comma ENU and then can write the same thing. Right? Then why we are using this one also? So what we can do, we can remove one of that. So by this double quotes, double slashes, we can comment outer line. Or if you want to comment out multiple lines, then we have the control K plus C option. This is a shortcut. Control K plus C, C for comment. And if you want to uncomment multiple lines, then we have control K plus U. Okay. Otherwise, we can put this double slashes. So there is a problem, a not valid identifier. Let me see the problem. Oh, it's FRA. Right? So with this, you can go to the doc and check what are the valid identifier for different languages. And with this, you can provide the caption. So for this shopping table, if I change the language to French, this caption would come. Otherwise, in English, this caption would come. Right? So what we are doing, we are handling the characteristics of a table differently by the properties of the table. Right? Then we have the data caption fields. So what are data caption fields? Let me go to the UI first and then show you. So this is the customer table. And if I click on any of the customer, So at the top, you can see something. You can see my ID and the name of my customer is coming. Number plus name. So it's a combination of my number and name. So with the data caption field, we can define what should come at the top of my page. Okay. Why page? Because page actually takes the underlying tables data caption fields. Okay. So here we can define what my page can take by defining it in the table properties. So if I go here and I show you the customer table first, and let me open the customer table for you. So customer table is the number 18 table, right? And if I close the object designer here, you can see the data caption fields is number and name, right? So with this property, we can define what do we want to be populated here. So here it's number and name, right? So how it's coming? It's coming from here, number, comma, name. We can define more also if we want to, right? Then Then we have the data per company. Now, this is the one that I was telling you. Data per company means that this table's data, it should be specific to a particular company, or it should be like shared with all the companies that we have into our database. So this table, suppose I am using this table in the Kronos company. If I say data per company equal to true, so whatever I have in Kronos in this table would be there for the Kronos only. And whatever I would have in trainer company for this table would be there differently, right? So, so if I have my trainer company, right? These are the company and this is my Kronos. Now I would share my tables, right? If I create a table, one table would be created for here also, and one table would be created for here also. So this is my shopping table. Shopping table. Now, if I say data per company equal to true, so whatever I save here, suppose I have three records here, so it will be saved here and it won't affect here. And if I say data per company true here also, so whatever I have here would be saved here only. Right? Suppose I have five records here. But if I say data per company to false, then these records would be shared to all the companies that we have into our database. So this is best practice to just save it to yes, so that our data is segregated for a particular company and not shared with the other companies that we have, right? But we have an option to change it. So this is data per company policy. And if you would see that is not defined here. Why? Because by default it is set to true. Okay. If I open a report, let me just